1 says find the solutions, and our equation is x squared minus x minus 72 equals 0. And we're going to have to use the quadratic formula on this one, so I wrote it down. And if you know the quadratic formula, it's just plugging in numbers and simplifying things. So we need to know a, b, and c. A is the number in front of x squared. There's not a number there, so the number is technically 1. So a is 1. Same thing for x. This is going to be our b. It's the number in front of x. There's not a number there, but this time it's -1 because of this negative sign out in front. And then our c is our constant, and that's -72. And what we're going to do is we're going to plug in our a's wherever we see an a, our b's wherever we see a b, and then our c where we see a c. So we have x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. These are all multiplication, all divided by 2a. So let's plug in our numbers. X equals this negative that has to stay on the outside, and then I like to plug in all my numbers in parentheses. So b is -1, this b right here, I said is -1, plus or minus the square root, b squared, so I have -1 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is -72. I'm going to make my square root longer. All divided by 2 times a, which is 1. Now we start simplifying. So x equals a -1 is just a +1, plus or minus the square root. -1 squared is -1 times -1, which is +1, minus, well, let's do it this way. We have -4 times 1, which is -4, and -4 times -72. Negative times a negative is a positive, and 4 times 72 is 288. So instead of -4, this minus and this minus turn it into a plus. All divided by 2 times 1, which is 2. Let's simplify some more. We have x equals 1 plus or minus the square root. Make that a little bit smaller. 1 plus 288 is 289 divided by 2. And we're going to simplify a little more. 1 plus or minus the square root of 289. You can use a calculator for that. Is 17. So now I have 1 plus or minus. I'm going to drop the square root because the square root of 289 is 17. And divide it by 2. So now I have 1 plus or minus 17 divided by 2. What we're going to do here is break this up into 2 equations. One of our equations is going to have a plus, and one of our equations is going to have a minus. So I have 1 plus 17 divided by 2, and I have 1 minus 17 divided by 2. And those are going to give me 2 different answers. 1 plus 17 is 18, and 18 divided by 2 is 9. 1 minus 17 is -16, and -16 divided by 2 is -8. So these are our answers, 9 and -8. So I'm going to write it over here. X equals 9, x equals -8. And that's our final answer, or final answers. It's a lot of work. You got to go really slow and use a calculator if you need help doing anything, especially to double check your work. And really be careful and watch your negatives. I'm going to do one more example. This one's a little, takes a little less time. But example 2 is an inequality. We have negative 4x plus 7 is less than 3x minus 2. So what we're going to do first is distribute. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Negative 4 times 7 is minus 28. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. 3 times x and 3 times negative 2. 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Now, how I like to, we want to solve for x here. Well, not necessarily, I guess. We're going to just simplify it. And what I like to do, how I like to start, is by starting with my smallest x. So I have a 4x here, and a negative 4x and a 3x. Which one is smaller? Well, technically my negative 4x is smaller. Right? Negative 4 is smaller than 3. So that's where I want to start. And I want to move that x onto the other side of the inequality so my x's are together. So the opposite of minus 4x is plus 4x. And I always start with the smallest x because that usually helps us deal with less negative numbers. Drop that negative 28. 3 plus 4x is 7x. And then drop that minus 6. Still have less than. Now I want to get my constant to the other side away from x. So I want to move this minus 6. So I'm going to do the opposite and add 6 to both sides. These go away. Negative 28 plus 6 is negative 22. And that's less than 7x. Or we can switch them around and we can say 7x is greater than negative 22. As long as this inequality, do you see how it's opening towards the 7x? This part is towards the 7x. If we flip it around, we want to make sure that part is still towards the 7x. Okay. And both of those are correct. It just depends which way you see it on your multiple choice answers. Oof, that was a long one, guys. Let me make it small so you can see it all.